There's a couple bills in the state legislature, both of which I'm against. They're being championed by a coalition of Republicans and Democrats. Democrats, at least they're honest. I mean, at least they say, yeah, we're all about government regulation. We want it. Government needs to come in and be your parent and regulate this and stop this explosion of freedom that's happening. Democrats are doing that. Republicans want to do it too. At least the Democrats are true to their stated principles, and we're not, frankly, when we are championing these bills, unfortunately. It's Senate Bill 109 and House Bill 1284. There's a ton of detail in these bills. I'm not going to go over them all. The House Bill 1284, I think, is 46 pages right now of a massive, all-encompassing state-level bureaucracy that is being created whole cloth, being started. The Republicans are creating a brand new bureaucracy. Has any bureaucracy that's ever been created ever ended? Just shut its doors and moved on? No. So Republicans are going to saddle our state with a bureaucracy that is going to be perpetual, that will create its own constituency and justify its own existence, and that our children will have to deal with. And that's wrong. We're going to fight against that. Excuse me. Senate Bill 109 is a little bit less intrusive. It's a bill that has to do with the doctor-patient relationship, and it would create an unprecedented level of government intrusion into the doctor-patient relationship and into doctors' decisions. And I think that's a problem. What I did with that bill that was interesting is all the references to medical marijuana doctors, I did a find and replace, love computers, and replaced that with abortion providers because I just wanted to drive the Democrats nuts. So I took their exact same bill, all of its requirements and onerous issues on medical marijuana specialists, and I said, all right, Democrats, you support identical requirements on abortion providers? Of course they didn't. Not a single one of them did, but it was illustrative to them what they were doing and the standards that they were placing on our docs, unprecedented level of standards that no other doctor in any other specialty has to comply with. So it has been so much fun for me to be over there at the legislature fighting these battles. I think we start with a two-pronged argument, and obviously whenever we're all opinion leaders because we're here, people look to our friends and family, look to us for political ideology and that sort of thing. So know your audience. I mean, that goes for any issue, including this one. Tailor your comments to your particular audience. I think we start with a scientific argument that is objective and irrefutable. The marijuana plant is harmless in the sense that it has never caused a death in the world ever. There's no way to overdose to death on marijuana. It can't be done. It's impossible. There's no lethal dose. Unlike the alcohol you're consuming.
Unlike yourself on the Cheetos.
Yeah, I mean, there are collateral effects. I mean, I'm sure that there's been people who have operated a vehicle while they're impaired by it and have died as a result of that. I'm not denying that that has happened. Probably less so than alcohol, much less so, because the behavioral impact makes you too careful as a driver, not too reckless, unlike alcohol. So I think we start with a scientific argument. I think we get people to... We've got to challenge them to look into logic. The argument against marijuana is fundamentally emotional and irrational. It just is. I mean, the argument against marijuana is basically, I don't like it, it's dirty, it's hippies, and you know, I mean, that is the level of argument that I hear when I really get to people. What don't you like about marijuana? What is wrong with it? And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to persuade someone, you better smoke marijuana. I'm not pushing that on them. I'm just saying, why would you try to stop another person from doing it? How does it hurt you? That's basically the argument that you hear. So you've got to combat that with logic, just straight up scientific logic. We've already recognized that it has medical benefits. There's no question there. Our opponents their thinking has evolved, and I appreciate that. 2 years ago, all of our opponents were arguing it has no medical benefit. It's not medicine. It's dangerous. It hurts you. You smoke it. It can't be beneficial. Now, in the state legislature, their argument is, well, we've got to protect the legitimate patients and help them get their legitimate medical marijuana and prevent the people who are faking it from getting their medical marijuana. So their argument has, our opponents, we're already winning because our opponents now concede the medical benefits. They have surrendered that front, so that's a good thing. So I think we deal with the statistics. I think we also deal, and it depends on your audience, but if you're talking to Republicans like I do frequently, I mean, you've got to deal with a freedom-based argument. You've got to deal with also a practical argument. And the practical argument, though, I think the argument that is most appealing to Republicans, Democrats, Independents, everybody, is that the government, instead of spending money on this, could be making money off of this. This is the only industry that I'm aware of that is going to the legislature, lobbying and begging to be taxed. Please tax us. Please raise taxes on our industry, the medical marijuana industry. We want to be taxed. We want to be taxed because we want to pay our fair share, and we think the government will become addicted to tax revenue and will then allow us to continue. Also, with taxation comes some degree of legitimacy. They'll stop putting us in cages and in prison and just start taxing us, and I'll take that trade. I'd much rather be taxed than be thrown in prison from my clients. So I think those are the arguments that are good. Another excellent argument is the comparison between alcohol and marijuana. Anybody who knows anything about history use the prohibition argument. I mean, we're living in prohibition right now. We've got a substance that is demanded by a good plurality of the people, maybe not a majority of the people, but a decent percentage of Americans want marijuana, and the government is trying to stop it. It's a free country. Walmart is not the government. Walmart has a right to be stupid, I think. Walmart, you know, probably, maybe has a right to fire this guy for a stupid reason. You know, if we're taking a freedom, anti-government, leave me alone attitude, your remedy or the employee, I mean, the worst thing that Walmart can do to you is fire you. That's pretty much the worst thing they can do. You know, they can't, unlike the government, put you in a cage. They can't, like the government, put you on probation. They can't, you know, make you take your analyses unless you want to keep your job. This is about a clash between our state laws, whether you support them or not, the voters voted in, and the federal laws that say they're inconsistent with our state laws. Which side do you come down on as a Republican who is in favor of freedom and in favor of voters being able to chart our own course in government of the people, by the people, and for the people? I supported Senator Romer's proposal in that regard. I think our state ought to support our people. If the federal government is attacking the Coloradans, I think our state ought to support them. But unfortunately, that part of the proposal is gone now. That's not in the bill anymore.